this now, would you? Here we go again.
Thank you, sir. Alrighty. I think we're good to go, yeah? I just want to get this set up. Okay. Ready, guys?
Yeah, I'm ready. Go ahead, Bucky.
Okay, recording. 3, 2, 1. All right. So, Boo, what stories do you remember that shaped who you are today?
Boy, that's a tough question, but probably the thing that most shaped me was probably my old man. He was very proud of what he did. He was a Union Ironworker for 30 years. I put in 34, so I'm a second generation. And I just knew how proud he was when he come home, and that's what way I wanted to be.
Okay. Yeah.
You remember his book number?
I don't. I know mine, but I don't know his.
What is your book number, Boo?
1088-530.
I think ours have a few more digits.
I got in July of 1982.
Wow. I wasn't even born until 89, so you're old. Right on.
What was growing up like, Boo?
Well, I went to Spanish Fork High School. Before that, lived on a farm most of my life. Done farming while Dad was working. Took care of the animals and everything, and I knew what work was about before I even become an iron worker.
Mm-hmm.
You have that drive and you have that work ethic that comes with the trade before you got in.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I had an old man that was 6'6" and 260, and he pretty much drove that into you. He was a good man. He was a good man. He was soft spoken, really learned, you know, he talked to you. He wasn't one of them guys that tried to dominate you.
You remember some of the projects your dad worked on? Was it all local, or was it some of them boomed out?
Some of them were boomed out, but mostly he done powerhouse work. He set all the turbines, all the stators on the turbines and stuff. We're talking 300-400 ton stators.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of them he had to make his own chokers. He had to hand weave his own chokers, and he taught me that. I didn't get to work. I got to work on one turbine pedestal down to IPP, and they were 400 ton stators, so they were pretty good size.
I'd say.
It's kind of a skill that gets lost, is weaving wire rope like that. I haven't met anybody that can do it still.
I could do it.
I met somebody today.
Yeah, but you know, it's just one of them things that you had to learn. I mean, you can't just go out and buy you a 400 ton choker. In them days you couldn't, you know. You might be able to now.
What does that consist of? Like, what size chokers do you have to weave into? I mean, is there a ratio? Like, you have to do so many 5/8, or how does that process work?
So many. We were doing 1/2 inch.
Okay.
But you know, the choker was probably, I don't know. And then there's friction involved. You gotta watch out what you're doing there too.
Yeah.
When you weave the chokers.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, that stator, when we got done with it and everything was set, you could actually grab that by hand. I mean, I'm not saying it was easy, but you could grab it by hand and spin it.
Oh wow.
That's how the tolerances were. And we had a lot of problems with it. The one side of the pedestal was sinking 11 mils in 2 days on a weekend, and that's not close enough for them. They have to be within 3 mils. So it's
Really tight tolerance.
oh boy, yeah.
Wow. I mean, you talk about on like an iron job, you're getting the 1/8 inch or maybe 1/2 inch out, you're still okay, but 11 millimeters is
Yeah.
that's about as long as my thought process. 11 millimeters.
Millionths of an inch.
Oh.
Oh,
really?
wow.
Okay, even smaller than.
Yeah,
I ain't quite that bad.
yeah, we're talking, we're talking hairs.
Yeah. Wow, that's impressive.
Do you remember any stories your dad told you about when he was working the trade? Any something really cool, interesting, funny, nicknames, that kind of stuff?
Well, they used to call my dad Jungle Jack, or Big Jack, but he just pretty much, he knew what he was doing. He run his own show, and a lot of people followed him. He was a good man.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he was like a magnet. People that just stick to him. They just loved him.
Yeah, my old man told me one time that Big Jack's what he called him too, and he said that he was sharp. He knew what he was doing, and if you ever had a question, it didn't matter what it was, he could answer it. And as far as rigging goes, he says there's probably no one better than Big Jack with as far as knowing where to go with what rigging and how he's gonna get there and not cut corners and do. So the old man was he has a lot of respect for your dad, which is definitely something I think should be there
Oh yeah.
for sure.
Heck, I got a lot of respect for your dad.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just the way it is.
Yeah, and how much older are you? So you're younger than my dad by quite a few years, yeah?
I'm 58.
Yeah, so my dad's got you by about 10 years then.
Yeah.
Okay. He got in 72, I think.
Yeah.
Maybe graduated high school in 72 and he got in 73, 74.
Yeah, yeah.
So, right on. That's good. So what made you want to become an ironworker? I mean, besides your dad and knowing the pride and stuff that comes with it, what was like your reason behind getting in?
Well, I had a problem. I blew my arm out playing baseball and really was not going anywhere. And I figured, well, I'll just maybe work permit for a summer. And I liked it so much because it's not only physically demanding, but it's mentally demanding. And I liked that. And I just felt like, everybody's father wants their son to be better than them. And my dad had a hard time. I had to have a sponsor. I had to have a journeyman to sponsor you. And I had my dad's best friend sponsor me, Gary Jackson. And there was a little, between him and my dad, there was a little argument going on over that. But anyway, I went to Bonanza Power Plant, just past Vernal, south and west or east of Vernal quite a bit. And that's where my first job was there. And the guy I partnered up, he was a Navajo Indian. His name was Herman Lynch. And that's the hardest working man I ever met in my life.
Really?
Oh man.
Wow.
I mean, he set me straight on a lot of things. I thought I knew how to work. That man knew how to work.
Was that your first partner then?
Yes.
First day, first partner?
First partner, first day.
What were you doing your very first day?
Dude, I was bolting up. We was up on like 220. First day I was 220 feet in the air bolting up, but it really heights never did really bother me. Never. I've been in a lot of scary situations, I'm not saying that, but I can see where nowadays a lot of safety is implemented and it's a good thing. It really is. A very good thing.
Because back then, you got laughed off the job if you were tying off, right? Or there wasn't even a concept.
Well, you had a lanyard right here on your left side and it was just looped in your belt. I had a hole right there and I always cut it out so I could put my sleever bar there. Because all that rope was in the way.
Yeah.
That's what Bobby North would tell us when we were apprentices is that if you unwound that rope, it would never go back the way it was. So you kept it all nice and neat and tight on your belt, and it was just there. Never got used.
I just cut it off and used it as a frog for my sleever bar.
So what was your first day like then?
Just basically bolting up the big girders just above it was above the turbine deck.
How did the rest of the journeyman treat, first period apprentice back then?
Not like they do now, probably a little worse,
Uh-huh.
but you.
Explain, say more.
Well, you had to be a hand, you had to show up on time. If you didn't, you was gone.
Mm-hmm.
No questions asked, no second chances. I mean, work was slow then. You had to be somebody to stay working. And I'm not saying the people that aren't working now are not something, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that they expected you to be there on time. No breaks, lunch, start time, lunch time, and go home time. That's it. That was what was in the contract.
So it didn't matter that your dad was Big Jack.
No,
Didn't matter.
I was on a different job than my dad. I wanted it that way. I didn't want to be on the same job. I didn't want no nepotism from nobody.
Did you ever work with your dad?
I did.
How much later was that?
It was IBP. It was in 1985, I think, for a short time, and then I worked for him up to we were putting up a federal penitentiary, and I actually drug up off him. Went to work for somebody else. It was better. We got along a lot better.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I can't imagine working with my dad. We headbutt on just the smallest stuff, so I understand what you're saying. We've been tough for sure.
I actually started out, I came from the non-union organized in, and I actually worked with my dad on the non-union side, and it was pretty much the same. Like, we didn't get along at all at work. Outside of work, it was great, but when we were working together, he was just the meanest man I've ever met in my life. Never liked him.
Well, I'll tell you a story. He told my partner to go take a break. And he looked at me and he says, I don't have to give you no breaks. Grab onto them 40-foot roof deck sheets and start dragging them out. So when he gets off break, you can help him tack them down. 40 footers. We're not talking these light gauge ones either. You bust them yourself, 40 footers.
How big were you as an apprentice, like size wise, weight wise? I mean, were you a pretty stocky kid?
Always. I have been about 230,
Okay.
225, 230.
So
About what I am now.
About me then, about the same size as me.
No.
Whatever.
That's the bullshit right there. Is what that is. Same size as you.
Hey, I was
Maybe in middle school. Golly,
fifth
bucket.
grade, I was 230.
You can't eat. I mean, we're iron workers. We're not the fans. We're the players. And that's okay. You are what you are, buddy.
Yeah, that's true. No, because I mean, I grew up in Spanish Fork too, so I think that was kind of, I always heard like the, it's Spanish Fork kids are a little bit stronger, bigger built, whatever it was. But I mean, I've always felt like I was a little bit stronger than some of the other people that we worked with.
Oh yeah.
Well, maybe that comes from farming, because you guys got that farm strength built up in you. So maybe doing all that stuff was a little bit easier.
Yeah. Or something in the well water.
Maybe, I don't know.
Yeah.
What was the pride like on the job site back then, Boo? Back in, when you first got in, you said your dad was really prideful and really loved what he did. Was that the same for everybody, you think?
Oh yeah. Yeah, if you didn't have pride in your union and in your trade, you wasn't in that trade very long.
Mm-hmm.
And was that trade wide, like through all the trades, or just ironworkers, you think?
I really couldn't be honest with you and tell you that, but I know in the ironworker trade it was. Yeah, it was in a lot of other trades, yes. I'd say that.
Okay.
What was the perception of the ironworker by the other trades at that point in time? Was
pretty much ironworkers is there, stay out of their way, because they're gonna make some stuff happen.
Mm-hmm.
And we did.
so they gave us the respect we deserve.
Well, when we were down, we stood a It was kind of a new concept, and I'd never seen it before, but we were building iron in vents down when we worked at IPP before I worked for the old man. We set a whole side of a baghouse. It was 660 feet long. We had 3 sky horses and 2 little cranes in the middle of them so they didn't bow, and we tipped them up, walked them in 60 feet and set them.
Mm-hmm.
So we're talking a whole side of a baghouse.
Wow.
I mean, it was phenomenal. They were setting records, and everybody was safe because they were building these vents on the ground. Now that's a heck of a vent, 660 feet long.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Big piece of iron going.
Well, you had 300-ton American sky horses. It was Shirtlift and Andrews is who it was,
Mm-hmm.
and they were blown go.
Wow.
How long were they in business for? You remember?
I believe they went out of business about 8 years ago, but I'm not absolutely sure on that. They done a lot of work up in Washington State and Ohio. They were doing a lot of powerhouse work, a lot of big, like that was a 750, and they updated it to 820, but they were doing a lot of 1,000, what they call 1,000. It's I don't know, it's how big they are, but they were doing a lot of coal-fired power plants at the time.
There's almost like a cult following around them sky horses, man. I hear a lot from the old guys talking about those cranes and how, just like you said, Shirtlift and Andrews, they were just, you get up there and you get it done, or you don't, period, you know?
Well, you either get it and get it done, or they get somebody else that will do it,
Yeah.
you know, and that's just the way it was.
Mm-hmm. How did our apprenticeship work back then?
We actually went to night school at, they had a place down there in Delta. They have like a community college type deal down there, and our night classes were there. We had to do it after work. We didn't get no time off work. We had to do it after work.
Was it in Delta just for the guys working at the powerhouse?
Yes,
So where did like the guys in Salt Lake go then?
they went up here,
Oh, they had another spot then.
yeah.
Gotcha.
And see, our Union Hall was not always right there.
Okay.
Our Union Hall was actually on 2nd, 3rd South, and about, I don't know, it was an old building.
This is in downtown or something, wasn't it?
Yeah,
Yeah, I think it was West Temple. I think I heard one.
maybe it was, yeah.
Something like that. Yeah, my old man told me that he did his night classes at it used to be what was that?
Oh, the Tech,
State College there in Orem. What was that? Utah Valley.
Utah Tech. They
Yeah.
used to have a Tech there in Provo,
Oh, okay.
but we had one up here at the community college in Salt Lake before they had this building, and then that went down to IPP.
Okay.
So we were accredited through I guess it's Salt Lake Tech. I don't know what it is now,
Mm-hmm.
but it was on Redwood Road and about 35th or somewhere around there.
Mm-hmm.
That's right where Salt Lake Community College is at.
Yeah, somewhere around there.
I don't know.
So if they had classes going on in Delta and then some in Salt Lake, did they have multiple instructors then? Or
Yes.
did the instructor go to Salt Lake on this day and then Delta this day?
Actually, if you worked down to IPP, that's where you went to school, was down in Delta. And Ray Bird was actually my apprenticeship coordinator down there. He was the superintendent for Shirtlift and Andrews.
Mm-hmm.
Boy, that was a hard pill to swallow, because you had to look at him on the job, and then you had to look at him afterwards. No, I'm not being derogatory.
No, I get it.
You know, he probably had enough of me.
Oh, I can only imagine.
Yeah, there was some, I mean, we'd give him a run for his money. There was like me, Corey Barnes, Troy Blue. I mean, I was almost ready to journey out when them guys got in.
Mm-hmm.
So I was a little ahead of them boys.
What did you do most of your apprenticeship?
Down in Delta.
Well, what were you doing? I mean,
What type of work?
What type of work?
yeah.
I connected for a while, and then we had a little, me and Shirtlift had, I'm not gonna go into that, but I went to work for Gelco, and I did it was on a central maintenance contract. And one day I could be welding, the next day I could be tying rebar,
Mm-hmm.
the next day I mean, it wasn't a one specific thing. Actually,
It's kind of nice then. A little mixture.
it taught me a lot of different things.
Speaking of welding, what was that like back in the 80s? I know it's a lot different today, but what was welding like back then?
There never was wire then, I
Mhm.
mean, but it was strictly 70-18, and then a little bit of 80-18, not much. Them columns down there were massive, and they were 80,000 series columns, so you had to have
Mm-hmm.
80s.
You imagine welding a column splice? It's like 4 inches thick with a stick.
Take a long time.
I like those, like that one project we did a couple years back. Thick ass with flanges and yeah, just stick. Stop. Do stick. Yeah, that would suck, man.
Yeah, you get on the highway and you have a repair on. Sorry.
It's alright. You can hear that.
You have a repair on a bridge, and there isn't a PQR for wire on a bridge, and it's not fun.
Yeah. Wow. Can't imagine.
We've talked about it a couple of times on here, how we all had kind of like a coming of age where we realized that we could read that. One day, you just kind of realize that you can read the iron and see what's going on.
Mhm.
You got a good idea of what's going on this job site. Now, do you remember when that was for you? Was it after you journeyed out? Was it before you journeyed out?
It was, about my third year. I mean, it was a 3-year deal when I got in. Now it's 4.
Mm-hmm.
But about my third year, when I could actually lift my head without a journeyman telling me to get busy and try and think.
Wait. So you mean to tell me you could lift your head without having an assist crane there to get it up off the pillow?
Whatever. That's the pot calling the kettle right there, mister.
Go ahead, finish your story.
That's all right. But anyway, you got looking at stuff, and you could pretty much, and you was always trying to find a better way of doing it.
Mm-hmm.
Not as an individual, but as a team. You've made suggestions, and they might take your suggestion or they might not, but everybody can learn from everybody, whether it's the apprentice or the senior journeyman. We can learn from each other. I mean, that's why they call it union.
Yeah.
It's not a I and me, it's a we and us.
Mm-hmm.
And it's our jobs to make everybody better.
What do you remember as one of the, how would I phrase this? What was one of the most iconic jobs for you, project-wise?
It was one of my last jobs, and we were out in West Wendover, Utah. And there was only a 3-man crew out there, and we were rebuilding this big warehouse. And that's where the Enola Gay was actually training, was out there. And I wouldn't let that guy, the guy that was over the project, I wouldn't let him in the door until we got it finished. And when I did, the guy fell to his knees and tears come down off his eye. I mean, it was like a 6-year project that I don't know who was doing it before, but they were Egyptians, I guess. Like they were building the pyramid.
You remember how those were built?
Whatever. But anyway,
You brought it up. I had to say it.
Jim, he was from Salt Lake, but he'd been in the Army and he'd retired and he wanted this museum. Of course, they're not gonna take the Enola Gay out there, but they're gonna put a replica. And it was me and Sammy and Jolly were out there, and we just finished the job up, and man, that guy was so appreciative. That was one of many. There's a lot of jobs, but that just caught my eye.
Mm-hmm. At what point did you get married? Was it before you was an iron worker? During? During? How far into the trade were you?
I was 1990. Me and my wife got married.
What did she think about the trade?
Well, I believe our wives serve an apprenticeship just like we did.
Uh-huh.
And, I mean, it takes a special woman.
It does.
And I think we all know that. And without her,
Mm-hmm.
you know, I'm just another guy,
Average old man, huh?
you know.
Yeah.
I truthfully believe that. They served their apprenticeship just like we did.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, I owe everything to her, really.
Mm-hmm.
But we've been together 34 years. So,
And she hasn't strangled you in your sleep yet.
well, she's got that big cast iron pan.
Yeah. You ever get out of line, she's gonna thump you with that.
Oh, yeah.
Just make sure you don't hit him in the head with it, because that's the only part that won't hurt him.
She already knows that.
My head's 3 inches thick. Well, so this kind of goes back to that same question Tanner asked, but when did you realize your roles shifted from, like, you know, apprenticeship to being a journeyman, but then also being a, you know, the old timer status on the job?
You know, I really didn't think I was an old timer until I stopped and looked around, and I was the old timer. I had some apprentice come up, "Hey, old man," and you know, who you call an old man? And I got looking around, and I'll be darned, I am the old man.
Yeah.
That kind of was a hard pill to, yeah, you was probably one of them.
Yeah.
Old man.
That's probably Kev first. But
Yeah, well, Kev, you know. He's from Spanish too.
yeah, he's a little different.
Them Johnsons.
When did you realize the appreciation of you switched from an apprentice to a journeyman? When did people actually start taking your input as a journeyman?
Well, I worked for a man that took everybody's input as appreciation, no matter, and that's how I was taught. But I mean, this man, he took everybody's situation, you know, he was a good man. And I'll think of his name in a minute, but he passed away. He told me not to come back after he was real sick. He had cancer and passed away. But Tom Campbell was his name. And he took everybody's advice in, and then he made a conclusion of what he thought would be. He was, you know, one of many, but he was a smart iron worker.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we had to cut these overhead cranes apart because they ordered them after the fact that the building was already put in, and we had to fish them up in this chase and then weld them back together where they went. You know, and he got it all figured out, the rigging, everything. But he didn't have just his input, he had a lot of people's input, and then he made a conclusion. And that's what ironworking's about, actually.
So he did a good job of making you feel heard on the job site.
Oh yeah. Making you feel like you was part of the team. And I've never not felt part of the team, ever. I mean, I've had jobs where, you know, we've had confrontation, but it wasn't about hate or haste, it was about difference of opinion.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
You know, no matter what, there was always my brother ironworker, no matter what.
What's one of the funnest days you've had, I think, as an iron worker? The best day, best story, you know. I know your wife's sitting here, so I don't know if you can really tell the story exactly how it happened. I don't know, but I know you've got some stories in there, and I want to get them out of you.
Well, there was a video on YouTube, and I didn't even realize it was on there until I went and looked at it.
That wasn't me climbing the column, was it?
No, it was Kopecky.
That's probably just as bad.
And right there at the last, I got my finger pointed out and I'm doing this, because I told him, you better decide whether you wanna be a cameraman or an iron worker.
Oh, that was when he was doing the
222.
video at 222, huh?
Yeah, that's exactly when that was.
That's the only picture you're in too. is the
No,
one with your
there's
finger.
a couple more, but it don't matter, I don't care, but, when we set that bridge there at,
City Creek.
City Creek, that was pretty satisfying right there.
Mm-hmm.
And you know how close it was. It wasn't off an eighth of an inch. I mean, all the welding and everything we done to it, and it was off the one pad on the very northeast corner, an eighth of an inch.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
And that goes to show you what quality iron workers in our local, and we had some brothers from down in Vegas. They were there too.
Mm-hmm.
The man that run the Raisin King, Mike, I knew him real well. Back in the shirtlift days, he worked for Shirtlift Andrews down to IPP. I knew him
Okay.
then. So,
It was a big testament to the quality, cause that was a big project. To be out an eighth of an inch on one pad only, that's a big
Yeah.
accomplishment, man.
well, it was a conglomeration of not just, I mean, there was a lot of people. Bobby Bryant, he was a surveyor, he'd come in and he says, I can't get you shoot it that close. He says, you guys got it. He says, you got it dialed in. I said, okay.
Now, did you build that on the ground or did you build it?
They
piece by
build it on
piece?
the ground.
So that's even more, I don't know, astronomical. Like building something on the ground rather than building it in place. 'Cause I mean, to me, it'd be easier to get it closer, building it piece by piece, getting it, make sure everything's going in. But I mean, you're basically running tapes and measurements and going off of what.
Oh yeah.
So that's more impressive in that fact. It's a hell of a feat.
I mean, you guys were tying it into something, I guess not. All of that was all new, right? All that iron in there?
Yeah.
In City Creek?
Both sides, and it set on Teflon pads,
Mm-hmm.
so it could move.
Was that for seismic?
Yes.
Oh wow. How much play does that have? Like with the seismic? I mean, that's probably getting into some engineering stuff, but
You know, I think it's got about 2 inches in both ways, but I'm not absolutely sure on that. I could go look at the spec, but it's such a long time ago, I can't tell you right off the top of my head.
Yeah.
I mean, I got it all wrote down in a little log I got, but that's been a long time ago. But I was gonna bring a couple books up and give them to you guys, but I couldn't find them, so, but when I do find them, you can have them.
okay,
Cool.
Yeah, that'd be cool to look through.
You know, I don't think I've ever asked you. How did you get your nickname, Boo?
You know, I've always been Boo my whole life. I mean, even when I was a little kid, I was my mother's little Boo. And I guess,
Boo hoo or?
boo-boo, maybe, I don't know. Maybe I was a boo-boo. But heck, when I was playing baseball and stuff, I thought everybody was cheering for me on the other side when they boo-boo. No, but, I was named after another iron worker, Richard Weeks. That was who I was named after, Dick
Mhm.
Weeks. And, nobody knew me by Richard. A lot of people still don't.
Mm-hmm.
And I was always called Boo my whole life, you know, even when I was, heck, I'd be playing baseball, they call me, you know, on the job, they call me that. I don't know
Mhm.
why.
Yeah.
It's just always stuck.
Did you ever give anybody a nickname?
No, of course I did.
Well, what are they? Tell us.
I'm not gonna say, there's some bad ones.
I want to hear them.
You don't have to tell. You don't have to say their real name, but what was their nicknames you gave out?
Well, lots of face, I give you that one.
Why'd you give him that nickname?
Because every time I give him a set of suspenders too. Because every time he'd bend over, and he's kinda,
Heavy set.
well, yeah,
Yeah.
let's say husky,
Husky.
Your
But
poor
anyway,
wife is just
but he's-
dying over there.
bald on his head, you know. It looked like he had lots of face, so because he didn't have no hair on his head, and every time you bent over, I seen that, and I go, oh, that's a lot of face.
What about, tell the story about Owen, how he got his nickname.
You want to know about Owen?
Yeah, tell us some stories, Boo.
Well, Owen's real name's David Hardy.
Uh-huh. Yeah, him and my dad were pals for a long time.
Well, he was up to Emory, and he started borrowing money, and he started owing everybody, so they started calling him Owen.
That's how we got that?
That's a true story.
Wow.
So instead of Dave, they called him Owen.
Like get another birth name.
Yeah, that's terrible.
I knew him my whole life, but I'd never called him David or Dave. It was Owen. That was his name.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, like Jivin' Jeff Perry, called him Jivin' Jeff. Some of the old timers, Jughead, you know.
What about Steve Lee? Tell that
Oh,
story.
that's your
I don't want to tell that story.
Yeah, we gotta hear that story.
No, I don't want to tell that.
It's a good one.
I don't want to tell that. Oh, Steve Lead. Oh, wow. I haven't heard that in a while.
Yeah, he used to tell us a bunch of stories on our way home.
That was always one of them. Every trip, every other day. Steve Lee.
Well, I think me and your dad gave him that nickname, actually,
Yeah. How did it come across? How did you guys come up with that?
because we were both welding on a job, and his name was Steve. I don't even know his last name. I guess
It was Lead.
Oh, it wasn't. So
That's what it became.
your dad, Steve Lee, because we were up in a scissor lift moving around welding, and I mean, you had to kind of wake him up a little bit. He knew what he meant.
Yeah.
So we started calling him Steve Lead. That's
Is that-
how,
Is that the same job that my dad broke his arm on?
yes.
Yeah. Okay. I remember that.
How'd he break his arm?
He was running a scissor lift the improper way with the remote control outside.
I thought you meant maybe he had the forklift underneath it and the scissor lift all scoped down.
No,
Who was it that did
that was my dad too. I'll tell that story in a second. But yeah, he was running the scissor lift on the outside of the scissor lift. And
Uh-huh.
got pinned between the scissor lift and the wall, and he couldn't release the go button, so it just kept pushing him into the wall. Us Claysons are hard-headed.
Yeah, it
And
was
then-
on the University Mall in Orem, that's where it was.
Yeah, and then he got in trouble because he needed another couple feet on a scissor lift, so he had it was like one of them big reds, you know, like 500 ton or whatever those big reds are, and he just kind of scooped it up and picked it up a couple feet.
Yeah.
With guys standing in the scissor lift basket, and apparently you're not supposed to do that.
I think that's frowned upon. Yeah.
Yeah, give or take. Tend to get your check for that.
Him and Lonnie were up there welding, and me and Shane Loomis was on the other side, and they hit one of them, fire sprinklers, and oh boy, it flooded that part of the mall there for a minute. They were vacuuming water up for about a good 6 hours, 'cause we had to work night shift because we were doing a retrofit. And they wanted to keep that. Steve Lee, wow. Yeah.
Yeah, my mom always told me your nickname, he was Boo because your dad's name was Pika.
No, no.
That's not it. Good thing
I
about that.
always told everybody it's Boo Cephas instead of Bo Cephas.
Mm-hmm.
He stole my deal, but that's what I tell him.
So what was it like? I know when you carpooled and stuff, like up to, you worked at the powerhouses up in Emory County and everything, yeah?
Yeah.
What was it like carpooling with the group of iron workers?
Oh boy, I knew that was gonna come up.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I was a little wilder then than I am now. I'll put it to you that way. That's all I'm gonna say. When we were down to IPP and we were carpooling down there, we always had the biggest car, like Cadillac, New Yorker. when I had that Cadillac, a lot of them could keep up with me. The Hawkmobile, you know, that was your uncle. Had a big push bar on the front of it. We were having push bar contests in and out of there. But anyway, when I got that Chrysler, nobody could catch me, and I was always the lead. Cause it had a big motor in it and it hauled butt.
Yeah.
It was an old grandma car, had been taken pretty good care of. And nobody could catch me then. But, you know, we'd have contests on the way home and stuff. Who could hit the most signs. That's about all I want to say. But not run over them.
Yeah, hit him with the beer bottles.
Yeah. You got it out of me.
Yeah.
I didn't want to say that.
I'm sure there's ironworkers that can relate.
Yeah, well, I kind of grew out of my wicked ways.
Yeah. That's funny. That's good stuff.
What did you enjoy the most about when you look back on the 34 years you was an iron worker working in the field? What do you look back on the most and remember the most about it that makes you happy, I guess, now that you're retired, you know? Because I feel like it'd be hard to just not do this trade anymore. So what keeps you going every day when you're trying to remember the trade?
Well, I see things that the buildings that we've all worked on, not just me by myself, but everybody. And, you know, it gives you a sense of accomplishment. The reason why I'm not physically capable of working no more, because if I was, I'd be working right now. It's just, there's health issues and I can't work no more. That's why I retired. I couldn't give the trade what it deserved. My expectation and what I expect out of myself. And I didn't want to be one of them guys that went out like that. Everybody's different. That's okay. But when I couldn't give them 100, you know, my 100%, then it wasn't worth it to me. And heck, I had some of the best men working with me, you know, Sammy, all them boys. Had some good people around me. And they helped me all they could, you know, and I just couldn't do it no more. Good man.
Did you feel any kind of peace when you got out? Did you kind of drive yourself crazy not having it anymore?
Crazy, very crazy.
What did your wife think about you being home every day, all day long,
I was driving her
every
nuts.
week?
Oh, man.
I was driving her nuts. You know, I was.
She probably felt like that superintendent that had to teach a class after work.
Yeah, she needed to teach me. I'll tell you what, it teaches you a lot more patience than what I had patience, I thought. Not very many. But she taught me patience.
Yeah.
That's a good thing. I needed that anyway.
So how long have you officially been retired since your last project?
Let's see,
How many years?
4 years. I think I've been out 4 years.
4 years.
Yeah.
Has it been, I mean, looking back on it, is there anything that you would have changed?
Nothing.
Nothing.
I probably, maybe a couple things, you know. Back in the early days, I was a little bit haphazard on the iron.
Explain, what do you mean?
Oh, I went in the hole a couple times, 3 times. But, you know, that's the problem I got now.
Yeah.
But, I went in the hole January 5th of 1983. I laid in traction for 6 weeks.
So you hadn't been in very long then.
About 6 months.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to bring this up, but I will. But the doctors up there told me I'd never walk again. 6 days later, I got up out of that hospital bed after they took all the weights off me and signed all the waivers. I walked out of that hospital. Now, I'm not saying I run out of the hospital by all means. But I walked out and basically rehabbed myself and went to work for one of the hard-nosed ironworking groups, Shirtlift and Andrews.
Yeah. Wow.
And the rest is history, you know.
So that one injury, well, the big injury, but that's what has affected you throughout your whole career
Yes. But it gave me a sense of strength to keep going.
then. Mm-hmm.
I mean, I always tell people pain's God's way of telling you you're still alive,
Mm-hmm.
you know. I mean, that's the way it is. But I lasted 33 years after that happened. I still don't think I got a doctor's release from that, but don't think I need one now.
Yeah, that doesn't matter now.
Yeah, I didn't think you needed permission in the moment either.
I didn't.
So, what do you remember about that day? I mean, I know it's been a long time ago, but I mean, what do you remember about that day that you think you could go back and change to avoid that accident altogether? Is there something that you did, or something that that the contractor did, or I mean?
It was nobody's fault. I mean, it was 30 below zero. It was ice was thicker than thieves on the iron, and it was just slicker than slick. And we were putting girts on the outside of the building,
Mm-hmm.
sheeting girts with sag rods and stuff. And I just slipped. And that's what happened, you know. Probably my own fault more than anybody. I didn't blame nobody. I actually blame myself more than anybody. But heck, you get up and you walk to the other room, you know, that was like the first day, and then maybe you get, you know, you walk around the house, and then you just keep walking farther and farther until you walk it out.
Well, that's a
I
tough-
just felt lucky I was walking.
Yeah.
They told me I'd never walk again. But it is what it is, man.
That's a testament to your own strength, because like nobody was gonna keep you down, right? You got up and you walked out of the hospital.
There's a lot more, you know, and I'm not trying to contradict anybody. There's a lot more strength than just myself that was helping me that day.
Mm-hmm.
When you fall that far and you're still here, there's a few other people helping you out.
Yeah, definitely.
I don't know if you want to get into it, but how far did you go? You remember?
36 feet. I landed sitting.
Oh, that's rough, man.
Yeah. Right there.
Mm.
Severed my spine right there. They say you got paralysis. Well, I did. I had paralysis, but I severed. It was high.
You got up and walked out of the hospital 6 days later.
Yeah.
That is impressive.
No, man, I couldn't stand it no more. They had every intern from hell to breakfast in there.
You feel like a lab rat?
I was so humiliated. I was only 18 years old, you know. You're just sitting out there in the wide open. They got every intern from hell to breakfast giving you sponge baths and, you know, the whole schmear. And, oh man.
I can't imagine that. Yeah.
You know, and I was embarrassed.
Yeah.
I didn't want to be there. Nobody else does either, but I really didn't want to be there.
Yeah. Well, Boo, just to wrap things up, what would you give advice to, so what would be some of your advice you'd give to maybe somebody that's on the fence about getting in the trade, the union, or becoming an iron worker, or, I mean, organizing, whatever the advice would be? What would you give to somebody that's on the fence with making a decision to either get in or not get in?
Well, first of all, you gotta be dedicated to a group of men. I mean, it's not I and me, it's we and us, to where we all make everybody better as a union and not as an individual. This is the most mentally challenging, physically challenging job I've ever had in my life. And if you want to be part of a team, and it is a team effort, from the journeyman to the apprentice, to the superintendent, to whatever, to the company actually, and the general contractor or company you're working for. It's a team effort.
Yeah.
I mean, in order for you to make money, they gotta make money. And it's the gift that keeps on giving. But if you wanna show up on time, give them a day's work for a day's pay, then maybe ironworking's for you.
Like that.
Yeah, that's good advice. You guys got anything else?
Oh, I'm just glad you guys came. I haven't seen you for a while.
You know,
so.
I'm glad you come too. Even though, I won't say that. I'm going home. You know what I call it.
Well, all right, guys. Well, Boo, thank you very much for your time and your stories and for being here with us on the podcast. We appreciate you.
Thank you guys.
And I know I don't speak for myself when I say it, but I mean, as an apprentice that grew up with you, I learned a shit ton from you, and I appreciate the knowledge that you were able to pass down to me, but also the example that you set is, I mean, as hard-nosed and hard-headed as you are, I mean, you were always there to, make sure if there's a question that needed to be answered, you were the one we could go to. So I appreciate you for that.
Well,
So thank you.
back to you, because you taught me too. All of you guys. You taught me. Not so much you, because I don't really know you.
We've never met before today.
Yeah, but these two, I mean, I got back what I give. And that's what you do. You give back what you give.
Yeah. Well, all right, guys. Well, thanks for listening, and we'll
See you on the next one.
yeah.
That's
see you next
that.
one.